We're still kind of early. We're still early if you want to hold for
Oh, I'll just go clip it out. That way I'll know I'll
hold for a
have
minute.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, I go through and cut all this out, you know. But we sure thank you for your willingness to share your time and expertise, man.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You spend a lot of time flying back and forth, LA and so forth.
I'm able to, I guess, thankfully, spend a lot of time at home in New Orleans. Keeps me busy with work. That's where family is. But then I'll jump out, for to various locations for work. I mean, whether it's now there's multiple markets which we can talk about. So if it's LA or Atlanta or Tennessee or something going on in Texas, it's I'll bounce around a bit.
I like your saying I'll bounce around, and I'll get back to that because that's exactly what I didn't want to get the interview between you and I, and Ray come on and say, well, it's all been discussed, folks. You'll have a good night.
Oh no, exactly. Yeah, we can. What you want to hold till 5 after, or
All right, we'll give another minute or so, and then I'm going to introduce Tootie and first, and then Barry can introduce you, and we'll go from there. And like you said, be sure and suggest to people to ask questions. Sometimes they're kind of shy, and sometimes all of a sudden you've got a whole bunch of them. So we're never for sure. But should we start now? Is everybody happy with that?
Did you have some people you were anticipating, Billy?
well, I see it's 7 o'clock now. I just know. I mean, maybe if you want to wait 5 more minutes, I'm not in a rush. If people are wrapping up their meal or trying to get to their computer or whatnot. But
Okay. I think y'all can all hear us. Am I correct? Those of y'all that muted, Shamika, Daniel, you can hear us, right? I think you can.
Yes, I can hear you. I
All
just
right.
mute you guys.
All
How you
right.
doing? Thanks about my smile. Hello, Billy. I miss you, bud.
miss you too. Thanks for the shout. Thanks for joining.
Yes, definitely. I look forward.
Let's see.
And Donald, we're good to have you with us, and Daniel. And that sure is a nice headshot or picture you have, Shamika. you know.
We're always here to learn. Who did your headshot, Shamika?
Those are the headshots we did actually when I was at Lunch Academy before we went off to the big competition with Industry Network.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where are you, Shamika?
I'm in New Orleans.
Oh, okay.
Currently in New Orleans. Yep. That's where I'm from. I had a great time, a great experience with Billy at lunch. It was like a great experience. He really pulled it out of me. He gave me great pointers that I still use today. Every time I get on that camera, I think about the words he told me. And one of the things that stuck with me the most was when he told us about our journey, like just focus on your journey. Don't focus too much about your acting and where you at. Just focus on your journey and enjoy the process. And that's what I've been doing, and it works. So appreciate that, Billy.
Great to hear. Yeah. Again, Shamika was a student at an acting school I taught at in New Orleans for a long time called Launch, and it's been great to see she and so many success stories come out of there of all ages. So, yep. It's not easy, but if you put in the work and you got the talent, chances are there's some opportunity waiting for you.
Make it work.
There you
Well, I
go.
think we'll go ahead and start then.
Okay.
Go ahead and introduce Tootie. I guess you can hear me, Tootie. So I want to introduce you and have you speak a little bit about your teddy bears, and then I'll introduce Barry and we'll go from there. So everybody else mute, please, and we'll be ready. So
Hi, everyone. I'm Tootie Hall. I'm an actor with acclaimed talent based in Austin, Texas, but I'm near Fort Hood. I have a women veterans group where we collect stuffed animals and give them to the veterans at the VA hospital. And those stuffed animals, any stuffed animals, we can only take new stuffed animals at this time. They'll go to the veterans in the hospital, hospice, CLC, and the nursing home. And I have a flyer out, and I'll post it on the webpage. And we're also collecting socks for the veterans also for Christmas.
And Tootie has been with us for a while, and she is a godsend. She got incredible energy. She does things for kids. She's been in the military. And by the way, Tootie's going to host a panel of directors next month, which we're real thrilled about. So love to you, Tootie.
Thank
Thank-
you.
Thanks for everything. Now I'm going to introduce Barry, who I met about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago at I think one of our last actual in-group, in-person meetings.
Person events, yeah.
Yeah, and since then, man, we've talked on the phone and via the computer, but I sure thank you for helping us, being part of this, and for booking Billy, and it's off to you, brother.
All right. Okay. So, well, Billy, thank you for joining us from New Orleans tonight. New Orleans, New Orleans.
Yeah, New Orleans. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Okay. So the intro is this. We put this together this afternoon. Billy is based in New Orleans, Louisiana, and he's going to talk to us tonight about how he and his team were able to build his career, even while he lives outside of New York and Los Angeles. He's been in over 100 movies and TV shows, including The Magnificent Seven, Mindhunter, The Campaign, The Big Short, and Marvel's Cloak and Dagger. And he starred in films like Laundry Day and John Schneider's Christmas Cars. Slaughter was brought to Los Angeles by Dustin Hoffman, and he has worked with numerous other industry icons from Clint Eastwood, Denzel Washington, Anthony Hopkins, Robert De Niro, all the way to Tom Cruise, Will Ferrell, Will Smith, and Mark Wahlberg. He was the youngest lead actor recipient of the Marquee Award. He's received a Best Actor nomination for the film Dark Meridian. He was listed as one of Gambit magazine's top young movers and shakers. Billy could recently be seen starring in the period drama Mysterious Circumstance, winner of Best Picture at the Los Angeles Film Awards. And you can also see him currently in The Winchesters, that's airing on the CW. And last but not least, he had a film come out this past weekend. It's called The Estate, and it opened in theaters across the country. So, welcome, Billy. Again, thank you for helping us out tonight.
Thank you. Thanks you guys for having me. Thank everyone else for tuning in. Yeah, I'm I'm coming live from New Orleans now. That's my hometown. I know most of you guys are in it's an Austin group, so another great town. I got a lot of family in Texas, but I guess I will. I'm anxious to get to chatting with you guys and answer any questions you might have. I'll start with my journey first and say that there is no one right way. Anyone, so maybe that'll be the first lesson, is just let that be a red flag when you come across anyone that is talking about this is the way, or you have to take this class, or there's one pathway to success. This industry, everyone's journey is different. So I can tell you what worked for me, my background, and then hopefully see where you are and help you maybe get to the next level. But for me, I started doing theater when I was in high school. So theater was my background. Ended up going to that's where it clicked. I got the bug. I went to college for acting, even though completely not necessary. I have a degree in it, but when I was in college, my forte became more classical theater, a lot of Shakespeare. I trained in England for some time, and then I did a year in New York when I was in college. New York is really where I made a career shift from a stage actor to an on camera. My ambition was always film primarily, and I knew my time in New York was limited, and so I just did a bunch of student films and shorts. But I came back. I graduated from University of New Orleans in drama, and then where things timed out well for me is New Orleans used to have a really strong theater scene, but there weren't many film and TV productions here. And then it was 2002 is when the Louisiana tax credits passed, production incentives we're all familiar with. So, right as I was coming out of drama school and thinking that I didn't have a choice but to make a move to a major market, I was going to be heading out to LA, is when our tax credits passed. The film industry came to my hometown, to my backyard. The first film that spearheaded that was Runaway Jury, the last Grisham film. There were no roles for me in it, but I was contacted. I was known as a local stage actor. So production contacted me and they're like, how would you like to try out to stand in for Dustin Hoffman? So of course, one of the greatest, to ever play the game. So I was like, yeah, let me give it a shot. That worked out. I was Dustin's stand-in for all of Runaway Jury. He and I hit it off. He invited me to move out to LA to be his regular stand-in. So I'm going to be talking a lot about the mixed bags in this industry. It's such a roller coaster. There are highs and lows, and so the positive was I was waiting for the right excuse to move to LA. Never imagined in a million years it would come from, a multiple Oscar winner. But when I was young and naive, you're like, man, this is the big break. I learned so much working with Dustin. I consider my year standing in for him as my grad school, whether I was working with him or he was on projects with Hackman, with De Niro. So I was just a sponge soaking it all up. But then the flip side is I spent so much time on set with Dustin, I had to put my own acting pursuits on hold for a while. I've always been big picture oriented. That's something I definitely want to emphasize. This is take an approach. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And I guess just to get to present day, I had I'd come back to New Orleans with a script I had written. I was going to be starring in that, producing it, and was wiped clean in Katrina. So that's where timing did not work out for me. And now just moving forward, where I was fortunate though, you never know, one door closes, another opens. So I had just in Katrina lost everything, been wiped clean, but I was able to get in on the ground floor of Hollywood South when it first started. Then round two, which was when production came back after Katrina. I was intending on getting back out to LA, but there ended up being enough work opportunity. And so that's when I just started working consistently and staying busy. And then of course, maybe round three was, and something everyone can relate to in different production markets. We're just coming, it's a day after an election, so politics get involved, and that's one thing with, if you have political support for your industry or not, and just markets, the right place to be at the right time. And here we are. I think this is the start of round four. Let's launch into questions here, because we stand on the precipice of a great opportunity. We're all in life and work saying, we're coming out of COVID. Nothing was normal. Things were flipped upside down, life, society. So now it's like, okay, what is the new norm moving forward? And the industry is certainly, for better and worse, but it is locking itself into new norms and standards, winding up this year and moving into the next year. So that's sort of my background to present. I'd love to hear from you guys. Any questions?
How much did belief in yourself matter? Was there ever a time of self-doubt when you were trying to get started, or did you just always know this is your path, this is what you had to do?
Um, I experienced both along the way. I didn't, even though acting was always an interest and a passion, early on it was a pipe dream. Like, it wasn't something I always knew I was going to do or set out hell or high water. Like I said, I started the big local high school, and I was just looking for something to get into, something to try out, different clubs, and you're, pulled in different directions. And my sister went to one of the big all girls schools in New Orleans, and they were starting up their fall production of Our Town, and desperately needing boys just to try out. So, I'm kind of a try everything once. So I just tried it out. I found, it clicked. I found something that I did have a natural knack at that I really enjoyed. Um, I wasn't too naive in that I knew it was a long shot. I knew there were a lot of challenges, but I'm a really practical person. So I was just like, I'll pursue this. I'll keep going until I'm given a strong enough reason not to. And of course, there were, some, as there will be, there were roadblocks thrown. But then it's like, okay, I jumped over that one, or I got through this one. And I was just frankly, I was never given a strong enough reason to quit. And then you have enough skin in the game where I was fortunate to hit a point where I could say, okay, I can make a career out of this. And definitely, I highly recommend, it needs to be, not just it should be, let it be a hobby, a complement to what you have going on in life first. Family, work, as you're navigating the waters, as you're finding your way, because it is cumulative, it's completely unreliable. So let it be a hobby as long as you can, until hopefully you reach the next benchmark where you can say, okay, this is work. Now it's from hobby, it's from interest to hobby to job to career. I think that there's an exception to every rule. There's the overnight success, but I think that's the natural progression. At least that's one you can make plans based on, and work at. As far as your other point, Barry, just about, confidence, or I it's funny because of the various skill sets an actor needs. I kind of feel like confidence was on the lower end. Um, I see a lot of actors that are abundantly confident, and if anything more, before they've kind of done the things, and that kind of bothered me at one point, because I was like, all right, you do something long enough, and you get some nice accolades and pats on the back, and so believe in your craft and what you have to offer. So I was like, I'm a happy medium guy. So I'm always trying to find the balance. It's like, you do need confidence as a performer, but you don't want to cross into arrogance, or no shortage of divas in this industry. You don't want that reputation. I got off my own back when I came to the realization that, and we can talk about your individual type. I'm a character actor. I'm not a traditional young leading man. So I think some of the some anxiety or nerves, or self-doubt that comes with being a character actor is really healthy. And I'll mention Dustin as well. I learned so much from working with Dustin, and that was one of the lessons there. Here's a guy, one of the only actors in history to win the Oscar for Best Actor more than once, and yet he starts a new project. He's nervous, like, how's it going? What's the approach? He finishes a project. There's anxiety about, okay, what am I doing next? I think from a character standpoint, what's healthy about that is it lets you know, well, nerves let you know something's important. Nerves let you know you're feeling something, which is good as an actor. You need to be feeling. It lets you know there are stakes. You need stakes as an actor. We thrive under that. So it's all good. You just have to control it. And then ultimately, nerves from a character actor means you're not just phoning it in. You're not just, a stock. I'll pick on the, the beautiful traditional young leading men and women, but we can all name the actors who they're super successful, but it's like, okay, they're just themselves, and everything, and it doesn't look like they're trying much, because they're not really trying. They're just kind of hitting their mark and taking their paycheck and saying the lines. And I think when you approach each role and each project fresh and from a moment of artistry and discovery and all the things we're supposed to be as actors, like living in the moment, moment to moment, you realize like, okay, well, you can only allow yourself to be so confident, because no, I don't want to know everything I'm going to do before I've read the script first more than once, gotten on set. Things change when you have the influence, when the collaboration kicks in and you have the influence of a director, and then you have other actors, or it's like a fight, it's like a dance, whatever analogy you want to use. I might have my game plan, but that should change once the other person is implementing their game plan. So I'd say, get off your own back in terms of nerves, self-doubt, because process and discovery is part of the journey. It's part of what we should be doing.
Wow. Yeah, I think about the saying, they say that, all great creatives are a walking study in contradictions, and I think that probably shows it a lot, shows up a lot in your line of work, the people you work with. Did you have people telling you that you were hurting yourself by not being in Los Angeles or New York or any of the so-called main hubs?
Yeah, absolutely. I hear that. I've heard that a lot. I continue to hear it, and there are different schools of thoughts, but most people know what they know from their own finite perspective or their limited viewpoint. The fact of the matter is, as evidence has shown, I'm happy to say that we're in an industry now, and I think maybe we've gone to a place to never return, where you don't have to live. You don't even have to have spent time in New York or LA to have a shot in this business and not even have a career. There are, working actors in Louisiana, Atlanta, in Georgia, in New Mexico. So the one thing I'll say to markets is, it's oversimplified to break it down into quality and quantity. Although I think that's a good place to start. Like, the numbers are absolutely in your favor in local and regional markets, to where for everything that's against you in this industry, you actually can stand a reasonable statistical shot at getting an opportunity, getting an agent, so that you can even be submitted for auditions, getting enough auditions, booking something. So I really say, don't, I'm just kind of the old fashioned way, one step at a time, earn it. I think, I think there's a big arrogance, and to many people's, they have to learn the lesson the hard way, of feeling like, all right, they're going to go to jump to a major market first. LA is not waiting for you. New York isn't waiting for you. If what I would pose the flip side is, if you can't accomplish something in your hometown or home state, what makes you think that you're going to be able to do it at the highest level? So I would just say, use what you can on a smaller scale that's more familiar, and then let everything build. What's great now is all auditions are virtual at this point, 100%. So it's never mattered less where you are, because a lot of the actors I know that have moved to LA or New York, they're frustrated as hell right now, because they're sitting in LA traffic and paying LA rent, and they're putting the same audition on tape for the same project that I am in New Orleans, that you would be in Austin, that an actor in Atlanta is. So mixed blessing. We have there's never been a time when there's been more opportunity for more people, but obviously that makes things more competitive as well. So you just have to be smart about using things to your advantage. I'll say about markets too, though, in local and regional markets, I think there's a lot of benefits to be had to work on being a big fish in a small pond first. Let that be your immediate priority. And then the good thing about major markets, they're not going anywhere. So wait until you need to move or you get the invite to move. Because in the local markets, there can be a ceiling. So not to say that, you do everything you could possibly do before you even start looking into upgrading your market, but that's one thing to consider when you do have to make that decision. Is it's like, okay, now once you've gotten some momentum, gotten things underway, it's like, all right, you have to ask just your own questions. Are you interested in being a working actor? In which case, it might be great to just be in a regional production market, and you get to work on cool projects and you get to do a lot of different roles. Or is your goal like, all right, I want to get on a big show, or I want to be in LA, New York, the major markets, they are more focused on quality than quantity of work. Am I saying? Yeah. In that that machine would much rather you as an actor do 3 really nice roles a year, and that's your career. Rather than in a regional market, you're a working actor. You might work on 10 projects a year. So yeah, that's something to be considered. But then again, you always got to question the source, because a lot of the people you hear from LA that are, that or New York that beat those drums follow the money, like in everything else. They're talking, if you hear it from an LA agent or manager, their whole existence, they only make $1 when you're working, and their standard 10% commission. So a lot of times their ideal equation would be an actor comes to LA as quickly as possible, is as indisposable to them, without limit, so that they can take whatever shots exist to ideally place an actor on a TV series, get them as a series regular, and then they get to kick back, not work at all, and just collect a regular check that comes with series regularity. But so you can understand why they want that, but that is that's a formula that, my goodness, I mean, 1% of people in the industry, and when I say one in the industry, 1%, now you're talking the 1%ers of SAG, of our union actors. Only, I'd say, I don't have all the stats offhand, but I think when I looked at them, it's something like, the top 5% of our union actors make a living wage year to year. And, it's only it's the top 1% that are the movie stars, the series regulars. So it's a lot like society. I'm happy to say, if you can be in the top, the 2 to 5, those are your rank and file working actors. It's it's not, it has its challenges, but it's a great place to be. Certainly, I'm super thankful to be in that area.
You sometimes hear actors say that it's almost impossible to be in control of the direction of your career. Like, how much control do you feel like you have in the direction of your own career?
I guess I'll start negative and go positive. So bad news first. The thing that is maybe most frustrating about this industry, this unique industry, is there are no guarantees. You can do, as far as control, you can do every single thing right, and it guarantees nothing. That contrasted with the other extreme, that you can be the actor doing everything right, top of your class, best in your class, award winning this, your craft is on point. And you'll see the actors left and right that, I mean, we've all heard the stories of, it's like, oh, someone wasn't even an actor, and they ran into a producer at a cafe, or they went along with a friend to an audition, and boom, they're just, they're thrown into stardom, and kind of overnight thing. So you do have limited control, but I think it becomes that much more important to know what you can control, and do that. Sort of the Eastern philosophy about, you got to know what you can control. What you can control, do it. What you can't, there's no sense in worrying about it. Or what serenity prayer if you're Catholic. So I'm about, know what you and the wisdom to know the difference. So know the things you can control and work on that. Know what you can't control, spend less time stressing over that, as a lot of actors do. I know it's easier said than done. And put that focus constructively onto what you can control. Again, I'm a happy medium. I fight every single day to achieve the balance in career and just life. And if I kind of, one thing I point out to a lot of students that sort of encapsulates everything, I say, never forget the model of show business. That's what we're in. That's the pursuit. There's the two parts. There's the dichotomy there. And you need to be a multitasker as an actor, and you need to be working on both simultaneously. So you have to put focus equally on the show aspect, on the art, on the craft, on your performance skill set. But you also need to recognize it is a business, and work on the business side of things as well, because this world is full of really talented actors that have the skills that we'll never see or hear from, because they don't know what to do with them. So you need to know, I mean, when it comes down to your materials, the calling cards, your pictures and your resume and your online profile and social media and agents and casting directors, and just networking, getting to meet collaborators, directors, producers, developing those relationships, creating your own content. So there are a lot of opportunities. The most maybe just practical advice I can give is, well, again, it's better as an actor, we're objective oriented. So just use that professionally. Give yourself clear objectives. Denzel Washington, Denzel Washington has said this to certain groups when he'll be talking to acting students. I'm not saying Denzel stole it from me. we've worked on the same project, but no, he's been saying it a long time. I've been saying it in other ways for a long time. But he says, understand the difference between between dreams and goals. Dreams are great. We have them. We should have them. But the difference between a dream and a goal is, a dream is out there. A goal is specific and it's attainable. You can then ask yourself, you can say, what can I do? What is in my control to do right now to accomplish this next goal? So set some clear objectives, and I'd say give yourself benchmarks, and hold yourself for what you can accountable. Say, this is a perfect time to be having this conversation, where again, we're at the end of a year, but we're still coming out of just craziness, and we're all setting the path for moving forward. So everyone listen, say, like, what are your career goals for the remainder of this year that we have? Even if it's just setting the groundwork to then say, what are your goals for the new year? Give yourself goals for the year, maybe goals for the next 6 months. goals for the month, and then goals for the week. Break it down that systematically. And I would even go so far as to say, this you don't have to plot out, because again, balance. You don't want to get too caught up in the details. But if you can do, even if you figure it out in the moment on the day, if you can do one thing for your career, towards your career, every single day, you will see results. And that doesn't even have to be so actor or acting specific. So again, you give yourself a little more credit. Maybe if motivate yourself, if you can get to the gym that day, like that's something you've done to help your career. Well, to a degree. If you're, if you're a character type and you're the big fat guy everybody casts, then maybe if you go eat an extra big sandwich, you're helping your career. You guys get the point. Even if you're doing something that might not be a direct, directly involved in acting, it can still be working on yourself, moving your career forward. I just got a haircut recently, something like that. It can help. All right, you have a haircut. Maybe it's going to suggest your type. Is it time for? Should you get new headshots if you have a new look, or if you have an agent? Something like a haircut. Now maybe you're going out for different parts. It can let your rep see you in a different way. You can let casting see you in a different way if they start typecasting you. So little things like that. I'll set a real low bar. When you're just Netflixing and chilling, how about Netflix professionally? Like, how about Netflix and work? Meaning, be a student of the industry you're in. When you're watching a TV show, a movie, when you're sitting at home, you can learn from that. I'm not saying be the over analytical actor and never be able to be a real person, because again, we're trained actors. We're training to act like real people. And the more interesting, the more real you are as a person, and the more interesting your real life and your view and perspective and experiences in this world, you can bring all of that to your acting. So don't feel like you have to watch everything as a study. I'm very happy to say, as much as I've done it, I can still I still watch movies, TV shows, and go along for the ride and buy into it. But it doesn't even have to be dramatic stories. You are you're watching the news. My goodness, imitate somebody you see. Play around with maybe a news anchor is interviewing somebody from, I don't know, from Scotland. I just did a film where I was a lead, Mysterious Circumstance, that Barry mentioned. Just came out on VOD streaming. Check it out if you love American history. It's fantastic. We can come back to that. But I played a character who was a historical Scottish national. Well, I didn't have time to learn a Scottish accent. I only had one. I'm American. I've never spent time in Scotland. I just had one ready to go because I used my downtime wisely. I gave credit. I watched Braveheart enough times and listened and sort of imitated, or so, I had that ready to go. So I've played so many different news anchors or reporters. So it's like, learn that cadence. That's a specific character in a specific situation. That's our job as actors. The given circumstances, unique character, unique circumstances. So I play anchors and reporters all the time because I understand. I didn't have to go to journalism school like they did and spend a lot of money, to be told how to speak this way. Sally, we've all seen it, or reporting from the field. Are you the field reporter? You can play environmental stuff. Whoa. So we've seen it. You know more maybe than you give yourself credit as an actor. So you can use that. You can practice that. Now the person starts, they're interviewing, doing the accent. Play it back. What happens now? They take a commercial break. I used to, as an audience member, as a viewer, I used to hate commercials. I was, I try to be a normal person. I don't like being hammered over the head with things or told, this is how you have to think, or this is what you need to do or go by. So I used to be like, okay, commercial break, that's when you leave the room, grab a drink, bathroom break. But then as an actor, that's part of my job. Now I have to understand let me study the commercial medium. I use those words. That's another really important distinction, I think, between major market and local and regional markets is the major markets. My goodness, if you think you're unique, whoever you are, there are, I mean, yes, we're all unique individuals, right? But when it comes down to type and your castability, there are only so many types and they can find whatever they need in droves. So in LA, if they need like a, half Guatemalan, half Korean quadruped with an eye patch, they can find like 20 of those. And so the industry, the whole machine is really built on people having their lane, knowing their place, staying in their box. And that's what the machine promotes. My point is, in a local or regional market, you're going to work, you get the opportunity to cross those barriers, to just really dissolve them. And if you are good enough with your varied skill set, you can work across medium and across genre. So medium, what do I mean? Well, I'll give you an example of, the opposite. So in LA, and again, you can all apply, you can name actors, you can name faces. That might be this. It might be like, okay, that guy is his world. He's established, we know him, but that guy does like horror movies, or this gal does sci-fi TV shows, or young. So when you talk about the medium, we're talking film, TV, theater, commercials are our four major mediums, our outlets as an actor. When you're talking about genre, of course, our two Greek masks, right? Our comedy, tragedy, and everything's a sub genre from that. So what keeps things really, I guess, as much as I've done in the many challenges, what keeps me engaged and what keeps it interesting is that variety. That as a character guy who works, I'll work major market as well. I have major market experience, but who works a lot in regional markets. I can be a good guy on a comedic TV show one day, and then be an absolute nightmare of a human being in a feature film the next. You can work on big studio projects, worldwide, international, and you can work on small independent films with friends, with other filmmakers. Do commercial in between, do bread and butter. I talk about you have the different benchmarks. As a union actor, I worked a lot commercially when I was younger. And but you join the union, and a lot of commercials were non-union. So one thing, I'll mention that too. If anyone asks, you do what you can to become union eligible as soon as you can. That's great for your career, but don't be in a rush to join the union, the professional SAG-AFTRA, Screen Actors Guild, Film and Television. And if anyone cares to know, I can go into further detail, but the bottom line is, rule number one in the union is you're not allowed to do union work. Early in your career, you don't want to limit your options. You don't want to tie your hands or certainly have anybody else. You want to pursue as many work opportunities as you can. So to join the union, that's something to do further down the line. Here's a perfect example. As I said, I worked a lot commercially when I was younger. There are trade-offs. Well, now I started to get more focus on film and TV. I was invested in my union. Well, I was no longer able to do a lot of non-union commercials. Union commercials are much fewer, further between, much harder to get. But so now, there are other ancillary gigs as an actor. Like I might do I found myself doing more like print and voiceover work. And so talking to you guys in a Texas audience, I think that's important to know what opportunities are available to you. Every market has their own niches, their own strengths and weaknesses. So one thing about Texas, and I'm saying this as an outsider. Like I said, I've spent a lot of time in Texas, have family, traveled all over. I've not trying to yeah, I've not had a chance to work professionally in Texas. Worked all around it, but I'm familiar enough to know that you guys have, some great studio projects will come there. You have TV shows that shoot there, but it's the ancillary market is really big in Texas, specifically the Texas cities, Austin, Houston, Dallas, where you can get an agent that represents you, across the board, meaning they pursue all work for you. And while you're waiting on the next TV show or the next big film to come to town, you can make good money doing, print work for I think one of the last ones I did for a hospital system or something. And work begets work, because that same person that might be on the fence, maybe you're trying to get with a good agent, or you're trying to get on a casting director's radar. What really helps? Them seeing you like on a billboard on their way into the office. So things like that, it all adds up.
Okay, we with the time we have left, we're going to go ahead and open up the floor for Q&A. So if you have a question, you raise your hand, and we'll go from there. Anyone?
I've got a question for you, Billy.
Yes.
I was a musician most of my life, but most of the songs I learned, and every musician learns, they're all over the radio. If you understand the basics, you get the chord structure, you know the lyrics. How did you, as an actor, especially when you were young, handle that much dialogue and remember it? I'm curious technically if there's a way to learn how to learn it quick and remember it, or if it's just trial and error.
That's one of those skills. People assume that, oh, you're an actor, you're great at learning lines, or like, exactly, it's a magic, it's a switch, or there's a special formula. That's one of those things that I think a lot, some people are much luckier than others. There's a certain innate ability. Some people, like, God bless her, my daughter can look at lines and she's a sponge. So some actors can learn lines very quickly, but then maybe the skill is more regurgitation. Like they just soak it up and spit it back out. And then if you ask them about the lines, an hour later, it's like, I don't even know. Where I fall in that is, I do have to, I feel like, maybe put in some work at learning lines. It is part of the process, but then once I have them, they're locked in. Somebody might mention a player movie that I did a decade ago, and it's like, boo, all the lines just are there, when you go for in your recall. So you mentioned trial and error. I think like anything else, it's never a one size fits all. Try different things, see what works for you. If you're, we all learn differently. If you're an oral learner, some actors, like, you can literally record yourself saying the lines and then listen to playback. If you're visual, I tend to be more just old school. As soon as I get a script, I highlight all my lines. So then that way, as I'm highlighting, they're sort of, visual aid, they're coming out at me. And then as you're looking through the script, it's just nicely separated. All right, here's my job. I start out with a speech, the big picture. You can at least visually see the structure. It's like, all right, I start out with a speech. Well, again, you got to start out with the givens, like I said, all the W's that you would ask as an investigator, the who, what, when, where, how, why. So once you answer all the questions, it's like, I might start out with a speech, and then I know I can see the other person then has a strong response, and then we kind of get into it back and forth, and there's a tete-a-tete. And then maybe like, okay, I have to remember, then it goes into action, where you're focused on what you're doing rather than what you're saying. And then, so just making those mental notes along the way. Like everything else now, there's an app for that. I think one is called Line Learner. So there's literally software and apps to help learn lines where you can put it in and like it has the other character's voice. But what works for me, I start with, I guess, my theater background. Don't be in too much of a hurry to get past the script. Some actors look at the script as the necessary evil to just like, all right, how quickly can I soak up my lines, learn my lines, get off book, and then move on. The script is your source material. Like anything else, you're only as strong as your foundation. The many choices we're making as an actor, and we do have so much to think about, but again, get off your own back, because maybe acting doesn't always have to be as creative an endeavor as some people think. As an actor, you don't, for better or worse, you don't have to, you don't get to come up with everything. That's the writer's job. So you're not burdened with coming up with the material. So the more questions you can ask, the more answers you can get from the script, well, you're going to be that much more solid in executing your choices, because everything's grounded and justified. So that's where you asked about, confidence. That's where my strength and confidence comes from as an actor, because if anybody says, oh, why are you doing this? Or why are you saying this? Or it's not, well, I was kind of feeling, or I had this great idea in the shower or moment of creative inspiration. It's like, no, because it says on this page that my character does this, or I'm coming from here, and this other character says this about my character, and you add those together, and then it comes out this way. So unique character in the unique circumstances. That's those are the parameters to work within. And there is room for creativity, but I mean, I'm pulling out a figure here, maybe 75% of what is guiding you is right there on the page. And then you fill in the 25% on your own, and then getting back to what I said originally. And then you got to leave yourself open. Know that you've done your work, but you got to leave yourself open to the percentage the director's going to fill in, and the percentage that your scene partners are going to fill in.
Wow. Who else do we have?
Yes, who's Melissa?
Hi, can y'all hear me?
We can.
Hi, Billy. Thank you. It's been really enjoyable getting to meet you on screen and hearing about your fabulous experience. I just want to say I'm so happy you just played a Scotsman, and I'm really curious about this because I'm a romance novelist and screenwriter, and I just wrote a
Wow.
fabulous, thank you, for an Irishman. So I'd love to hear about your experience playing a Scotsman in your recent historical movie. Would you mind sharing about that?
Sure. So it's called Mysterious Circumstance, and the full title, The Death of Meriwether Lewis. So in school, we're taught about Meriwether Lewis as half of Lewis and Clark, and that's usually all we hear about this guy. So I was happy. Another thing that's good, there's so much more. One change in the industry now, so much more is based on existing material, if not historical. We're seeing a lot more non-fictional stories, true life stories being told, biopics. Like everything else, I think there should be a healthy blend of telling new stories. I'll first to say there's definitely needs to be more originality in the stories that are being told, and things are being rehashed, but there should be enough room for both. That being said, a huge advantage in whatever arena you're in to working on real life pieces is you get to research so much more. So I was able to find out so much more about Meriwether Lewis and this journey. And the story is he became a really big deal. He was personal friends with President Jefferson, and he was well rewarded. He became governor of Upper Louisiana after his quest, and not Upper Louisiana as far as like Shreveport, as in Louisiana Purchase. He ran the middle of the country when it was still being settled. In a nutshell, he died under very mysterious circumstances, as our title suggests, along the Natchez Trace. near like Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama borderlands there. So anyone who's into this is an independent film we did. I don't want to over tout, but it got every film fest it played at, it got the top award. We got it out finally on VOD streaming, so you can find it. Please check it out. Amazon, Apple. It's out there. iTunes. I know Barry and I are both friends with John Schneider. I've worked with John a lot. John's in this one as well, but it's a really well done independent film. So if just as a filmmaker, it's great to see what can be accomplished with it was made locally with independent filmmakers, not for a whole lot of money, and it looks great. Everybody brought their A game, but certainly if you're a fan of American history, check it out. I play the Scotsman, and it was, and even that was a discussion. Originally, the writer director had not, even though the character was a Scottish national, he wasn't planning on, he didn't think he could find an actor that could pull off a Scottish accent is what it came to. So again, something that is in your power, just increase your what you have to offer, your value, and your range. Make yourself I know we can talk a little bit more about auditioning, because when I taught acting for a long time, and of the separate skills we have, audition skills are absolutely that's a separate skill from acting. There are brilliant actors. I've talked about some of them that I've worked that are horrible auditioners. De Niro or what will tell you, he's like, but guess what? They're at a point in their career where they don't have to audition, and vice versa. So work on both those skills, because if you can't be a good auditioner, then it's going to be really hard. So work on your audition skills when you're, find a good acting coach. But as you're, first off, I would really, if you have the luxury, really try to train with someone that's walking the walk. It's an exception to the rule. There are some people out there that maybe, teaching was their calling, but the industry has changed so much. So even if somebody was a great coach once upon a time, or even was a great actor involved in some things once upon a time, seek out people that are doing it currently, existing in the current industry. Now, once you have those options, if you can have your pick, really invest in somebody that focuses on audition technique. There's a famous book called Audition by Michael Shurtleff. So that is a must read. He breaks it down to benchmarks, but get good at auditioning, because as an actor, that's what we do most of. There's the joke. It's like, we're paid to audition. The acting's for free, right? Or somebody says, well, anything, what do you do for a living? I audition, right? You're going to hear no much more than you hear yes. Now, you only have to hear yes once to have a break. You only have to hear it consecutively a few times to have a career. But audition skills is what you can control. And I know, Gary was talking about, we were talking earlier about whether it's musical structure or like screenwriting. And I'd say, coming back to my degree in drama, take the 3-act dramatic structure to your auditions. 3-act storytelling. We need a clear beginning, middle, and end. So it's so amateur. Yes, the words are important, but my goodness, that is the absolute least you have to worry about, is what you're saying. It's how you're saying it. It's what you're doing with the lines. It's what you're doing to the other actor. I had one a top casting director who told me once, he said, when he watches audition tapes, he's looking specifically for what the actor is doing when they're not speaking. So take that for the, what are we doing when we're not speaking? We're listening, we're reacting, we're conveying, we're emoting. So it's not just, it doesn't just start the performance with your first line. Start with the moment before that establishes that first image. They click. What do they want to see? They want to see as many of the given circumstances as they can. They want to see in that first image, if I hit pause, or within the first things you do, your posture, what you're wearing, your environment, they should have a general idea of, wow, I see this specific character in this situation and I know how they're feeling. That's like given circumstance. And then we get to the middle. Well, my goodness, that's the arc of the scene. There needs to be turning points, a major shift, a transition, look for discoveries. And then we have to end with the moment after, the resolution. Again, at least we're not ending with the last line. That final impression is end with, you're ending with an action or a reaction that comments, that encapsulates everything that happened before that led to that moment, maybe even hints, suggests at what comes next. So I get a lot of compliments all the time from casting directors about my auditions I'm sending in, or when I show up on set, more and more directors are like, oh my God, your audition, like we watched it and it was just, we didn't watch further, it was done. But a lot of times I'm dressing to suggest the part. I'm try to create as much of the world on the page. I think that's what, casting directors can be a unique bunch because they're people after all. And so they have their own preferences, likes, dislikes. But I feel like a lot of the actual decision makers, that are the directors, the people that are deciding, they really like to see the writers, the creatives, they like to see the world they created or they are creating kind of come to life in your audition. So nothing that's just too much, static talking head. Yeah, there's some tidbits on audition.
Wow.
Thank-
All right. So we are right at almost 8 o'clock. Gary, we want to take a couple more questions, or how
I'm
do you
happy
guys
to,
want?
if anyone has some others.
Yeah, it's up to you, Barry. I think we had Donald. We might make Donald the last one so we don't cut too much into Billy's time for the
Well,
evening. But
I see Stephen had a question as well, or Stephen, Donald, who you want to?
Yeah, I was wondering. I mean, where do you live at now? You in Louisiana now, or where do you live at now?
I live in New Orleans.
New
So
Orleans.
again, my journey, I started in my hometown. I lived in New York for a year. I was in LA for a few years. I trained overseas, for a summer program. So I've had major market experience. Absolutely, it's benefited me, but it's not necessary. I spend, my family is in my hometown.
Mhm.
I spend a lot of time enjoying the luxury not many people have of working at home. Where are you? What part of
That's a
Texas?
question I was wanting to ask you. I live
Yeah.
in Georgia, and there's been a lot of movies
Oh my
shot out
goodness.
here. Yeah, we had like Trouble with the Curve. You said you worked with Clint Eastwood. It was actually shot here where I'm at. But
Richard Jewell
yeah,
with Clint Eastwood. I did. Yeah, I mean, consider yourself lucky. Frankly, you're one of the luckiest people on here because
yeah,
Texas I mean, there are only so many states of the 50 states. There are only so many places in the world you can have a career in film. There are
right.
only so many states you can. Now, thankfully, Texas is one of them. But as I said, Texas is kind of a unique market, has a lot of ancillary stuff.
Mhm.
Georgia, right now, the rankings shift, but the top 4 are LA, Georgia. As we speak, Georgia might be number 1 just in terms of the number of productions. So we can
Right.
say if we're trying to rank, I think it's Georgia, California, New York, Louisiana are our
Mhm.
top 4. Texas would be, 5 right there is probably New Mexico because of their incentives. But Texas would be a top 10. So I would just focus on what you can do, what inroads you can make where you are, make the most of that first.
But now, have you ever done anything in Georgia? Have you ever shot any movies in Georgia?
I have. So I was mentioning I worked on the last time I was there was quite an honor. I got to work with Clint Eastwood on Richard Jewell, which was the story, another true life story of the Olympic bombing in
Oh yeah.
Atlanta. And
Yep.
so again, it was great for research to be part of, to dive further in, make sure we're telling someone's story, trying to get it right.
It was a
and
good
do
movie. Ain't no doubt. It was a very good movie. Yeah.
thank, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
feel like enough people saw it. If you haven't seen Richard Jewell,
Yeah.
definitely go check that one out.
Yeah.
Um,
So,
I will say though, it's getting it seems like it's harder. It's definitely gotten harder to work market to market. A lot of people are kind of more dug into their camp. So again, this is good news for most of you guys because it's, if you're in Georgia, there's a lot of opportunity there, pursue it, but it's going to be harder to work outside of Georgia.
mhm.
If you're in Texas, same thing. It used to be much more open border where I could, as the Louisiana based actor, I could just pop in and out of different states and work. But now, now they, a lot of people are trying to maybe take care of their own first, but to a degree, I think that's a good thing. Just make sure
I just seen work at the house. I'm with you, man.
There you go. There you
Just
go.
seen work right here. Heck yeah.
Yeah,
So,
get to
Steven
know
has
your
a
market.
radio morning show, by the way. We'll have to get you on there sometime. So
Oh, sure. And I'll say too, like, it is in a major market, it is impossible to get to know everyone or to have them know you. I mean, there's so many casting directors, producers, directors. It's going to be even if you're doing well, it's going to be a fraction of them that are your little bubble. Whereas in another market, it is, not only is it possible, that's like when I talk about practical things you can do, wherever you're based, Texas, Georgia, you can count on one hand the number of casting directors that do the vast majority of the projects in your state. You can count on two, the ones who do everything. So my goodness, what a great place to start is like, all right, my goal for, make your goal, I'll spoon feed it to you. Make your goal for 23 to say you're going to get on the radar of every casting director in your market. Doesn't mean you have to book with them. That's something you got to work at, but at least get in front of them, let them know who you are, what you have to offer, and that you exist and where to find you.
nice.
There was another question, Gary, you said?
Yeah, I had a question.
Donald?
Donald? Yeah, go ahead,
Hey,
Donald.
Donald.
You were talking about 75% of what's on the page is what they look at. And how important is it that you say the words exactly as they're written for any script, or do you tend to take those words and convey the same thought and make it your own?
This is where medium comes in, a prime example of knowing what you're auditioning for and who you're auditioning for. So if you're auditioning for TV, and as we know now, even that word TV doesn't mean when it used to. TV now, when we hear the term, like, it used to just be cut and dry, right? There's film and TV. Now, if you hear the term feature, it's just basically how the story is told or distributed. So feature film just is like a full length film. TV now, they say more like series or episodic. So the story is just told in episodes or sporadically rather than in one shot. So far more stories now are being told episodically than through feature films. In TV, in episodic, sticking to the script is much more important because now you're working with teams of writers. Because it's done in installments, chances are, if you're coming onto one of those, you're a complete hired gun. You're thrilled you booked a TV show. Well, you might be in the 4th episode of season 6, so you're jumping on a moving ship, and they already have set parameters. Like I said, and it's a team of writers that put a lot of time into, and it's mechanics. It's like, okay, they write a page a minute, literally. It's a half-hour sitcom, so whatever, it's a 22-page script with 8 minutes of commercials. It's a 1 hour, so it's that technical, and you got to just throw out the lines to facilitate the leads to get to the next commercial break, so the advertisers can pay for it all. As unsexy as that sounds, that's what it is about, is kind of delivering the words clearly, efficiently, versus in the film world, you do have more leeway with maybe not just with the words, paraphrasing a bit more, making something your own, but then also getting to, I prefer doing film because you get to exist and create and live in those moments between the dialogue as well. Again, if you check out Mysterious Circumstance, there's a lot of great gamesmanship, things, subtext, things that are being said between the lines, or looks, posturing, etc. So TV, it's much more important. Film, it's still important, but less so. But as much as I don't like to speak for others, I will say that overwhelmingly people in the industry will tell you any day they would rather see a strong, inspired, creative performance where you're not word perfect. Maybe you had to paraphrase here, you replay or switch these, or you forgot this line, but you just stayed in, and you kept yourself engaged and you kept them engaged. They would rather see that every day, and that's going to book you every day over an audition or performance where the actor is so concerned with just being word perfect that they forget about all the other stuff, and then we're looking at an anxious actor recalling lines instead of an interesting, a real human being that seems like an interesting character in a unique situation.
Very well stated. Thank you so much. Kenny, we got one time for one last question. Kenny, make it quick. And again, thank you so much, Billy, for your time. So.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, cut me off. I'm an
No,
actor.
no.
I appreciate it. I'm saying we can.
Too precious. By the way, I wanted to make two comments. First of all, your wisdom is outstanding. I love your idea because it's true. Work on what you can change. Don't worry about what you can't change. It's what you can change.
Yeah.
Your inspiration about that. Number two, you have an incredibly interesting face. I've seen about 10 or 15 different actors in there. Do you ever think about impersonations or stand up or both?
I really admire great impressionists, and I can,
man.
I have a skill, certainly some parroting, but even I won't hold you to it. But that's something else, you actors, the sooner you can know your type, your brand, that can really help you take control and guide things towards that. You'll make more things happen in your career, but you need to be honest about it. Again, it's not the fantasy of who who your mom thinks you are, how she sees you, or who you'd love to be. No, it's who you are. I mean, I hate to say, we all shudder at that word stereotype, and again, I don't like the idea of being put in a box, but it's a visual medium. So how you look and your idiosyncrasies are going to affect how you're cast a lot. I just real quick. So ask friends. I was saying, ask input. You're allowed to have your own opinion, right? Good homework I'll give. Maybe find 3 different actors that you would say are your type. What does that mean? You could play the roles that they play over and over. So find those existing actors. Maybe find that's actors. Maybe do the same thing. Maybe find 3 different roles, the characters in projects that you could play those roles. They for nothing. It would come naturally, and then ask the audience, poll, ask some friends or colleagues, hey, who do I remind you of anyone, something like that. Like for a long time, I would get, you remind me of I've had a baby face for a long time. I'm finally, looking my age, but so I would always get, hey, you remind me of a young Dustin Hoffman, whatever, young Ed Norton, John Cusack. And then it wasn't until Transformers came along that I started getting, hey, you're kind of like an older Shia LaBeouf. And it's like, all right, I guess I am a few years older than. So we're always reminded of when we're aging, and your type can change like everything else. That's not a bad thing. And
Kenny,
don't,
yeah.
and sorry, and don't be afraid. I know typecast to some people is a dirty word. My goodness, if you can have the luxury of having a typecast, you can't be typecast unless you have some aspect of a career as an actor. So start out with what you are, or what you know, or what's familiar. You can always branch out or reinvent. But Mike, yeah, I mean, geez, if you can start out carving a niche, that's just going to make things happen faster.
Barry?
Cool. Okay, we're going to wrap up with Kenny.
Thank you,
Kenny.
guys, and appreciate you, Billy. I appreciate that. I have a question here. Your first credited role as an executive producer came in 2017 with Dark Meridian. What did you learn from your first venture working on the other side of the camera?
Ooh, if we would have time, I want to answer quickly. And if we can maybe just get to Shamika, because I know I haven't seen my friend in forever and ever. And it's good to see her. So Kenny, Dark Meridian was the first film, yes, that I was approached to star in it as an actor. I loved it so much. I was like, hey, I want to do whatever I can to bring this together. So I will use that as a lesson. Say, try to wear as many hats as you can. Uh, Create your own content. Man, yeah, definitely. That's too long an answer to say everything I learned, but I will say for all the projects, Dark Meridian is absolutely a highlight because I wasn't just a hired gun. I wasn't just hired help. I worked with friends, with old collaborators. I was being in a producing capacity. I was tasked with bringing on most of the talent to that. So I was able to help shape, not just be confined to what I was doing or my character, help shape creating the world we're in and the whole story. So it was extremely, when you can multitask on a project, it's extremely rewarding. It does give you a lot more work to do, but again, I mean, certainly if you're being paid, more work is good. More work means more checks. And even if, early in your career, do things for free. Don't be, just try to get those things do matter. Do it for the experience, for the copy, for the resume, for the collaboration. Yeah, all that matters, even if things don't go well. Dark Meridian went very well. Again, if you haven't seen that, that's available. It's a present day New Orleans set crime drama. If you like the genre, it's really well done. But even if things aren't successful, Tarantino just did a great speech on this recently. I mean, it's still extremely valuable because that's how you learn. That's, we have to, going back from being a little kid, right? You got to fall and get some bumps before you're like, okay, let me not do that again. Let me do it differently. Tarantino has talked a lot about that, and he said he views it as, because he was, some people are all about, oh, you got to go to film school or institutionalized learning, just as working with Dustin hand in hand was my grad school. Tarantino said his film school was making and failing at his his disastrous first attempts, because then he said, unlike so many that said, okay, this is a sign that I shouldn't be doing this, he's like, no, this is a sign of what I need to do differently or need to do better or work on so that we can get it right next time. And again, just as I said, you can do everything right and it guarantees nothing. The flip side applies too. If you can do enough right that, maybe it does just require, okay, I just the right place at the right time, where you're not reinventing the wheel, and maybe it just wasn't your time or the time for that specific project, and something could have changed to where now it is. So don't get too discouraged. Again, marathon, not a sprint. Shamika, can it wrap us up?
Yes, yes. Awesome job, Billy. You always give great advice. I want to give you that. Also,
Thank you.
coaching tips. I hope you guys had a notebook. As being a fellow student, everything that he said in this meeting, I'm sorry for being last minute, but I was soaking everything up, making sure I was checking my list and doing the things that I was taught to do from when taking your class at lunch. But don't be afraid, I agree, of doing free things, because at this point, I done had my fair share of independent film. It's been a great journey. Now digital streaming is, popping. So being on Amazon Prime and Tubi and seeing myself is accomplishment to me, so I haven't focused more like you taught on major roles and, things like that. So I want to encourage you guys to do take notes on that. And also just enjoying the journey is the important thing. And my thing is now, after being in it for 4 years, gaining the experience on the camera and the techniques and taking orders from the casting directors, I'm now at a goal setting point to where getting new headshots because of new look and, getting the Asian, that full coach. So what advice would you have for me, Mr. Billy, to reset myself as like ongoing, to continue like what I already started in this journey?
And you can,
Yeah.
I know we're wrapping up here tonight. I'm thrilled. I'm so proud to see what you've done. You can definitely, you know where to find me. You can message me and we can
Yeah,
talk about,
definitely.
specifics of where you are, what you've been working on. And again, for everyone, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. You can follow me, shout or drop a line. But, I guess just to end with a general, it depends on, and why I don't want to get too specific for you just in this forum. It is
Right.
unique to kind of where everyone is, and different standards do apply. So I would just say, early in your career, we have so many things going against us. You don't be the one to,
Yeah.
don't make yourself the reason why you're not working. Don't set too many obstacles or parameters. Don't be overly selective. I mean, exception to every rule doesn't mean you should be exploited, or safe working conditions, or, the nudity and stuff. But like, don't be, some actors, it blows my mind that early in their career, how opinionated about, oh, well, maybe this role I'm being offered isn't, it's not some Oscar worthy or what I see myself. It's like, man, if you're given an opportunity, pursue it, do it, do it for the love first. If you're
Yeah.
if you're do not set about, going after the fame or the money, again, those are two things you definitely can't control. You can control your skill set.
Okay.
You can't control if you book the part. You can control if you are remembered, if you stand out from the crowd to either get that role. If that role wasn't meant for you, maybe get another role in the same project because you stood out. And if that project wasn't meant for you, you've done what you can control. You put yourself in the casting director, that you've put yourself in someone's head, you've put your headshot on their file, and maybe, well, they're definitely planning on bringing you back for the next project. But we can all, give examples where you might, just when you least expect it, you might get that call or email out the blue where they're like, hey, somebody wants to offer you, is putting a project together and they want to offer you this role. Yeah, I see. I mean,
Yeah.
that's so when those are some of the most rewarding moments, when you see you see the benefits from the groundwork you've put in, even indirectly, over time. So
Exactly.
keep putting in
Best
the
way to
work.
round it up.
Yeah, but live your life, be
Yes.
and the major markets aren't going anywhere. There's now it's there's never been, I said I'll leave with, there's never been more opportunity for more people, meaning your size, shape, ethnicity, gender, religion, where you come from, all that stuff has not only never mattered less. I'm making sure I got my tenses. It's but now people want diversity of stories. They want so I mean, I'm as a as a white character actor, I'm not uh I'm the least interesting guy in the room right now, you know? So there are people are actively looking to give a lot of different people opportunities.
Right.
So
Mr.
things that were absolute obstacles in the past, you know, ageism, sexism, you know, bigotry, like we live in the world. It's not perfect. It's never going to be, but the industry has made major strides to be, you know, far more inclusive to what it is that you have to offer uniquely. So again, I will shut up and just say, get to work knowing who you are and what it is you have to offer uniquely
Got it.
and hone that.
Got it.
And
Appreciate it.
Miss,
Thank you, Austin. No.
if you can hear me, Miss Rana, I just want to say, this may be a God thing. I just wrote a screenplay. Well, I just wrote a novel that's been turned into a screenplay, and the star character is Miss Shamika. So I would love to.
Wow.
Yes, ma'am. I would
Yeah,
love
see,
to.
you get points for
Yeah.
showing up. Y'all
Yes.
take each other's
guys
names
will
and,
have to
and get in
connect.
touch online. But
Yeah.
it's
Billy's been-
a perfect example that you never know, you know, luck is preparation and opportunity meeting. You never know. Just put yourself out there as you did tonight. So hopefully you know, learn something that can get you over the next hump.
Thank you. Well, you can follow me on my Facebook, Shamika Vonado, and just send me a message and let's get to it. I'm all about doing new things, and I was taught by the best. You're listening to them.
Thanks, Shamika.
Thank you. And
Thank you
I'm
both.
at
Thank you all for having me.
Melissa Miracle 71 at Gmail. Melissa Miracle 71 at Gmail. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Everybody.
Billy, you were great. You were very generous with your time. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Shamika, Kenny, Stephen, Phillips, everyone who participated. You guys, Tootie, always so gracious in helping us out with this this Zoom machine here.
Happy birthday, Gary. Well, thank you very much. Yes,
Happy
I
birthday,
turned
Gary.
75 yesterday, and I voted and voted and voted and voted and voted.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic.
Thank you, guys. Good night.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thank
Stay
you,
weird,
everyone.
Austin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great to meet y'all.
Have a good evening.
You
Everybody
too.
mute. I'm going to make the intro. I didn't make it at first, so everybody mute. I'm going to keep recording. Okay. Thank you, folks.
Y'all take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Check 2, 1, 2. Where am I? Well, good evening, folks. It is November 9th, 2022, and my name is Gary Wimmer from the Network Austin Mixer. We're thrilled to have you folks with us tonight. And first, I'm going to introduce Tootie Hall, who sets up our meetings. Then I will introduce Barry Rogers. who will introduce our speaker of the evening, Billy Slaughter. So you folks know that we're glad you're with us and stick around. Good evening, folks. My name is Gary Wimmer. This is the Network Austin Mixer. It is November 9th, 2022, and we're thrilled to have you folks with us tonight. And we are especially thrilled about our guest speaker, Billy Slaughter. First, I will introduce Tootie Hall, then I will introduce Barry Rogers, and he will continue to introduce Billy and proceed with the meeting. So thank you all for being with us.